Hello and welcome to the Cream of Manchester's preview of this weekend's Premier League clash against Fulham. Whilst generally a team that slips under the radar in mid-table, swimming pools on roofs are not the only part of their unique nature. They are also within the tiny minority of clubs that were on the wrong end of a double league walloping off the mighty Manchester United last year. We're joined today by our regulars, Remo, Roy, along with Sam Yard, who has kindly joined us to talk about all things Fulham. So we'll start with Sam. Sam, thanks for joining us. What are your lot expecting this weekend?
In all honesty, I'm not completely sure. We haven't signed anyone this window, so this season sort of seems like a general continuation from last season. Like, it's sort of blurring into one for me. Our kickoff game against Brighton, very even, but it just seemed like the same football. So I'm just guessing it'll be pretty even between us, to be honest.
Well, that goes against same as last year, along the same theme as last year, because I read that in the two league games there was only 4 shots on goal.
Yeah, well, it's been a standard trait in Fulham United games, I'd say, over the past 3-4 seasons, that they always end like by 1 goal, and it's always in the extra time, something like that. They've all been boring games.
So tell us about your years following Fulham. We've got a lot of generations on the call today, coverage of a lot of generations. Tell us about your time following Fulham. Why did you get into them? Was it a family thing? And, generally your love for Fulham?
So I sort of got into football quite late. Like, I enjoyed it when I was younger because I played it a lot, but supporting Fulham-wise, it's probably like 13, 14, because I didn't really grow up in a football house. Like, it wasn't a big thing. And just all my mates were into football, but I thought like I had to support a London team, had to support a team that felt something to me. So I weirdly landed on Fulham. Like, this would have been like 2016-17 season, which was weird as we finished 1st or 20th in the championship the season before. But I don't know, there's always been something about Fulham that I've liked, like maybe just remembered from when I was younger, like always playing like attacking football, like going forward, having players like Dempsey, Zoltan Gira, all of them. So that's how I sort of fell into it. And since then, like throughout school, like it's just watching highlights, watching the games, all this, all that. But it just led up to me wanting to be able to go to a game, which led up till lockdown, which basically, as soon as I turned 18, able to go to games, lockdown hit, so I wasn't able to, which was just really bad timing. So it's only really been for the past 3 seasons that I've been going to games.
Okay, and tell us a bit about sort of like what your thoughts are on Manchester United. So you won't really have been following Fulham when we used to win everything and blitz everybody in our path. What's your thoughts on us these days? Is there a sort of like a bit of hatred? Is there any moments that have been particularly spiky during your time following Fulham?
Well, funnily enough, the first game I've ever went to was a United game against Wigan. Like, it was a Boxing Day fixture. I remember United won 5-0 and Berbatov scored a hat-trick. It was like, our family from Bolton and they're all United, so they just invited me along with them on Boxing Day. That was the first game I ever went to, so it's like sort of my first memory of football, really, in itself. So, yeah. But nowadays, I think for the past few seasons, you've just had a really toxic dressing room, and it just seems like it's sort of stagnated and getting worse for a bit. But with our games against you, as I said, like, it seems like something always goes wrong for us. Like, I remember going to that FA Cup game, I think a couple seasons ago now, when we were 1-up and then we had 3 red cards. Like, I was planning the Wembley trip in my head, just like by half time, like ready for it. Then just I remember it was a Willian handball sending off, but from the away end, it looked like he just blocked it completely fairly. So we all celebrated. Then we just saw the ref lift up the red card, and it was just devastating from then on, because then Mitrovic obviously just decided to shove the ref, and Silva just shouted abuse at the 4th official, so both of them were sent off as well. So it went from one of my best footballing moments, like supporting us, to the worst. So I think there's still a bit of hatred there just from that game, and just wanting to beat United.
I know we've previously spoke about like ticket prices at Fulham and ownership. I know Remo wanted to come in with some questions around that because whilst we're aware of ownership models at a lot of Premier League clubs, Fulham is one that slips under the radar a bit.
I'm just genuinely interested in, there was a big deal last season that the game against United didn't actually sell out, and it seemed to be because of this ridiculous pricing that goes on in I think it's the Riverside stand, and they were charging 160 quid for that one-off game against United. They've charged similar prices for other teams. I don't think it's just United, but I'm interested. Obviously, there was a lot of publicity because it was United and it wasn't sold out, but I'm just interested in what Fulham fans think about that, how they've protested about it, and ultimately has it changed any attitude from the club? Has there been any softening of those prices, or is it even worse this season?
Well, I'll just sort of go into like our ownership structure before I delve on tickets. So we're owned by Shahid Khan, an American billionaire, and then his son Tony, who's basically his son's our director of football, which I think there's a bit of conflict there with the son of your owner being the director of football, because does he really have club's best interests at heart? But with ticket prices itself, like the River Stand, I had to look just for the game. I'm pretty sure on average 125 quid a ticket, which just is unaffordable. And even around the rest of the ground, the average ticket's 73 quid. But I think it's because we're a London club and the owners know they can get away with just selling tickets to tourists, which really, really kills the atmosphere. You see the Riverside stand, whenever it's goes to a clip or video of it, in the background, there's always just fans filming the player, just looking disinterested. And I wouldn't even really call them fans. It's just clearly just marketed to tourists rather than actual fans who it's just not affordable for.
Yeah, which unfortunately is the way it's going pretty much everywhere. With United have done it just behind the dugouts, as we discussed in an earlier programme. They've played out fans of dozens and dozens of years and just left it open to the highest bidder, just to sit behind the dugout and say they were there, it's kind of a too.
I know someone who's, sorry, Remo, I know someone who's going on Sunday, a United fan. Stand up, his value, 90 quid. 90 quid for a stand-up ticket, face value.
He's got that direct.
I mean, that's in the Fulham end.
Yeah. It's not like he's not got it through a tout or anything like that. It's 90 quid to stand up on Saturday. The game, Sunday. That's Sunday when it's on the that's as a member. But I mean, it's on the telly at 4:30 on a Sunday, and you've got the travelling difficulties and everything. I mean, it's outrageous, really, isn't it? I thought there was a £30, or has that gone down the Swanee now? Well, it obviously has. It's costing
£30 for away fans, genuine away fan. If it's bought from the away club, then it's still 30 quid, isn't it? I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, apart from FA Cup games.
Yeah, he must have bought something corporate there, or a Fulham end ticket, I think, Roy. Yeah. Just on that, Roy. So how does that compare with your first ticket? What was the cost of it when you first started going to football?
Don't laugh at an old man, but when I first went in 54, 55, it was 2 bob to stand up for the bloke, which is 10p. It was 4 and 6 under the cover. That's 23p. And a couple of years later, the first ever European Cup game that was played in England against Anderlecht, the seat tickets were 4 and 6, 5 and 6, or 7 and 6 to sit down to watch the first ever European Cup tie, which was United and Anderlecht, played over at Faulty Towers there at Main Road.
Faulty Towers, yeah. Just on that then as well, Roy. So Fulham probably brings back a lot of memories for you, particularly George Best. Wanted to ask you about your favourite Fulham memories in that time.
Yeah. Well, before George, the first big Fulham memory I had was the 1958 semi-finals. Fulham were a second division team then. United were 3 months after the Munich air disaster. And the game was played at Villa Park, 70-odd thousand. Fulham had a decent side. They had Haynes, Tosh Chamberlain, Graham Leggett, Tony Macedo in goal, Langley at fullback. Not 100% Cohen. I don't think he was there then. But Fulham had the better game, drew 2-2. And the replay was the following week. And it was kicking off at 2:30, and the venue was Highbury. Now, 1958, and strangely, it was shown on the telly. Very rarely in those days. You only got the FA Cup final and the FA Amateur Cup final that normally we played. Anyhow, United won 5-3, and Alec Dawson got a hat-trick. I still think it's one of the only hat-tricks ever in an FA Cup semi-final. He was only 18 years of age. And of course, we went on to play Bolton and got beat in the final. But Fulham, I had a lot of memories of seeing him throughout the 60s. I saw a lot of Johnny Haynes. He was a great player, but of course I was biased because he was a number 10. United's number 10 was Dennis Byler, who without a shadow of a doubt was an absolutely magnificent footballer. Still United's leading league goal scorer with 32 in a season. He still holds that record. He was the leading scorer in the European Cup that first season, and he dovetailed brilliantly with Tommy Taylor, who happened to be the England centre-forward. So numpty me at 11 years of age was wondering why the guy who's playing brilliantly himself and he's playing brilliantly with England's best centre-forward wasn't in. But Johnny Haynes got the selection and was captain of England and was the first ever £100 a week footballer when the maximum had been 20 quid before that. But Georgie, of course, is still the greatest footballer, in my opinion, that I've ever seen. And I go back to 1955 and he include the Busby Babes in that. I can give a qualification about Duncan Edwards if wanted, but the qualification, which I'll give, was that poor Duncan only played 5 years, from 16 to 21. And Duncan came into the side, and I had the pleasure of knowing Duncan personally and interviewing him. And he told me that the first 5 years as a United player, from his debut to winning the European Cup, effectively, was the greatest 5 years of his life. But the next 5 years should have been even better. But we just didn't invest in the team. And the team went down and it got relegated within 5 or 6 years. George went to Fulham about 76. I can't remember if Marsh was there first or whatever. But I saw him play for for Fulham at Bolton. He scored early January 76. And he still looked fit. He wasn't flabby or anything like that. And interestingly, played 42 games for Fulham. United, he played 360, but there was only San Jose Earthquakes, where he played about 50 games, that he played more games for. So Fulham was one of the longest periods that he played, except for Manchester United.
So my perspective, based on that, and I don't know if it's fair or not, is that when he went to Fulham, he was winding down his career. Is that correct, or is that fair, or is that far from
by
it? Was he still one of the
76,
best?
of course, he made his debut in 63, so 76, 13 years. So he was certainly 30ish by then. But he was a completely different personality then. I mean, he should still have been at United really in 76. And of course, London's got a lot to answer for, because that was one of his favourite cities, and he loved the King's Road. He loved the life in London as well, but he was just an absolutely genius of a footballer. I mean, you've only got to look at the pictures, haven't you, in the mid-60s, late 50s, and the ball and his balance, and Ron Harris kicking him 15 ways up, down and whatever. And, crikey, we were complaining last week about not getting away with a free kick on the goalie, and there was, George is getting kicked from pillar to post. An absolute genius. And a great bloke to know, by the way. A great bloke to know.
We'll come on to Remo next. Favourite United Fulham memory, Remo?
A slightly odd one, but I think it was 2013 when I think we were on the bus together, but we, again, it was quite a crucial game in the title run-in, which we played them a couple of times those years, having to win away. But the memorable thing that night, I think it was a Saturday night, was that the lights went out. The floodlights went out halfway through the second half, and the match got delayed for, I don't know, it felt like a long time. It was probably only about 15, 20 minutes. But we were kind of wondering whether it would get abandoned and called off. I don't think we'd scored by that point. I think they only scored after the lights came on and the match carried on. But the game, I remember that for the season. Prior to that, the 5-1 start of the season game, which was, I think, the first time Rooney and Ronaldo played together after they'd had their, was it European Championship back, where Rooney had got sent off. Everyone was predicting they wouldn't pass to each other and all that. We were 4-0 up after probably about 40 minutes. We were battering them in it, and Rooney and Ronaldo were back to their best in terms of combining and setting each other up for goals, which was obviously the start of that kind of 2007, 8, 9 run when we won 3 titles in a row and the European Cup in 2008. That was
I've got a few
good memory.
Fulham. I've got a few Fulham memories as well. I recall Van Nistelrooy's debut. I think it was 3-2 that we won in the end. Went past Jaap Stam quite famously. Because Stam ended up getting sold like a week and a half later, I think. And of course, as well, we also had the Van Nistelrooy wonder goal as well. I think he elbowed a Fulham player on the halfway line. Fulham player went down. He took on another 3, went round the keeper and put it in the net. So that was he was in like probably the best striker in Europe at the time, Van Nistelrooy, along with Henry. But yeah, it was that's certainly a memory. But yeah, I think I'd go with that first game of the season. But Van Nistelrooy did seem to like playing against Fulham because I remember him scoring quite a few times. Sam, we'll just come on to you for another perspective of this sort of like fixture. What's your favourite memory?
Favourite is joint for me. Like, I think it was a couple of seasons ago now when we beat you 2-1 and it was a last minute winner by Iwobi. Like, I remember we were 1-0 up for a while. Then was it, don't remember who scored for you, like quite close to the end. And in my head, it's like, this game's done now. Like, same thing happened again. We were winning, then not. But yeah, last minute winner. So that was really up there. And that was like our first time beating you after that FA Cup game. So it felt great. But then also last season in the FA Cup when we won on pens, obviously that was just amazing too for us. So it's stuck between those two for me.
Yeah, and just another thing as well, just tell us about your rivalry with Chelsea, because it's not one that, crops up in the biggest rivalries in England, but at the same time, we'd like to understand it a bit more.
I think it differs, like every Fulham fan, depending on what generation they started supporting, will tell you who our biggest rival is, because it's stuck between like QPR, Chelsea or Brentford. Like Chelsea for me, obviously a lot more successful than Fulham, but it's just that hatred there. And it's like Stamford Bridge is in Fulham, so it's sort of just local. But yeah, it's just, there's something about them I just can't stand. I don't know why, but it's just ingrained in Fulham fans. But for me, like in my time supporting, we've always been battling with Brentford, whether that was in the Championship, we had the playoff final against them when Joe Bryan scored a wonder goal, free kick. So in my mind, I'd say I'd probably hate Brentford more than Chelsea, but it completely depends on when you've started supporting Fulham.
Yeah.
What are your views on Chelsea's recent transfer activity, Sam? Because I know a lot of football fans can't make head nor tail of how they're getting away with it. I noted they've done similar today with buying a player and sending him straight to Stuttgart to get him back in a couple of years. It just seems like they're riding roughshod over any rules, never mind the PS.
Yeah, in all honesty, it just looks really dodgy, especially that NCSO deal today. But just the amount they're spending. Like, I remember when Todd Bowley took over in that January transfer window, I think they spent over 100 million in January or something along, like, I'm not 100% sure, but something along the lines of that, which just is mental. And especially when you see like Nottingham getting a points deduction a couple of seasons ago, Everton getting a points deduction.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems like, well, bigger clubs in general aren't being held as accountable to them, which I don't know. Well, we'll see if it comes back to bite them in a few years. But honestly, I don't know how they're getting away with it.
And that's the hope, isn't it? Because, I mean, they seem to be backed into a corner twice. And obviously they sold the women's team and then a hotel.
Mm.
So I was reading at the start of the transfer window that they could spend more than anybody else in the league because of those two deals. So you hope that it catches up with them, but it's not looking like it's going to right now, is it?
Yeah, it's just a FFP/PSR. It's just difficult to understand in general, like how selling an asset of your club can count towards it, whereas like that surely goes against it being called financial fair play. That if a big club which will have more assets can just sell a hotel, like, and get away with buying more players, which completely puts smaller teams at a disadvantage.
Okay, so moving on. So your team, looking at your transfer activity, and it's really underwhelming. Is that the feeling at Fulham at the moment? And why do you think that is? Because from what I can see, you've only signed one goalkeeper on a free transfer.
Yeah, it just really is confusing, in all honesty. Like, I've seen recently we've been putting like 30 million bids out for a winger. So it's like, do we have the money? Do we not? Like, it's really confusing to understand why. Like, I know like our transfer strategy for the past 3 seasons has been signing experienced Prem players. And obviously that has a big effect on the wage bill. But it just doesn't make sense why, like, even one player has come in at this point. And we haven't sold anyone either, which is a positive so far. Like, we've lost Willian, like, his contract expired, and Carlos Vinicius. But honestly, I have no understanding why. Like, it could be to do with PSR, but...
Is there a worry there then, or do you what sort of benchmark do you think Fulham are at in terms of the Premier League table?
I still think because we have a similar team to last season, and I do reckon we'll get players in the last minute, because it's been a recurring theme over the past few seasons that we do buy players really, really late, and we are later than all other clubs. So I still think around the benchmark, I'd probably say like in the 11th to 14th range, I'd guess. But yeah, there you go.
So we're gonna start a bit of predictions then. So we'll come to Roy again. Roy, looking at Sunday, big match for United after a loss. Fulham got a point at Brighton, which wasn't too bad. How do you think Sunday will go, and are you optimistic?
Well, having watched them last Saturday, sorry, whenever it was, Sunday, I think we'll win 2-1. I think Testo and Brian from Brentford will get the goals. But if we played like we did against Fiorentina, we'll get stuffed. You just don't know. Like Sam said at the start, we just at the minute don't know. Last Sunday's game with Arsenal was such a relief in a lot of ways, wasn't it? And, you know, if that's going to be our form and we've got this centre forward in there now, well, we've got every chance. And as Sam says, surprisingly, Fulham have not built on what was beginning to look like a Crystal Palace type story, you know, of success.
What about you, Remo? You fancy us or what?
Yeah, again, like Roy says, you don't know what's going to turn up. I worry still about our central midfield. I thought we looked good up front and in defence on Sunday, but midfield-wise, I thought we, as we've said before, they look a bit open. We get opened up quite easily right down the middle. Whether Fulham have got the ability to take advantage of that, we'll see on Sunday, but they could. But I think we're all kind of understanding that we were a bit unlucky against Arsenal, but you've got to take that. And I think, yeah, I would say, I as long as it's a good performance, but yeah, I'm probably similar to Roy. I think with our goalie problems, I can well see us conceding one, but I can see us getting 2 or 3. So yeah, fingers crossed, 2 or 3-1.
Now you mentioned that goalie thing. What do you think is going on there, and what do you think we should do?
I honestly am. We've got to change it. It's clear that Bayende hasn't got the character for it. Unfortunately, he's got some good aspects and attributes, but he seems petrified. And we've not been told what was wrong with Onana last week. Nobody's come out and said he was injured or he just wasn't fancy. Would you give Tom Heaton a go? But to be honest, it seems to me that they've got to go out and grab someone damn quick, and that's probably as important as a midfielder. you do get goalies who grow in confidence, but if he flicks around now and brings Anana in on Sunday, then you're starting again, aren't you? So
Yeah.
it's a massive problem because it affects your defence, it affects everything when you've got no confidence in your goalie. And opposition fans will pick up on it and really get into the keeper more and more and more. And you're just going to get teams that every corner's going to go right on the goalie's nose, and it's a massive problem. And they've got to sort it before the transfer window's closed. So to me, they've got to go out and get someone.
Yeah, and
Van
I'm
der
hoping
Sar?
to see Sesko start as well. Hopefully, I thought it was a bit of a deflating not to see him start last Sunday. Personally, even though Mason Mount did play quite well, I just can't see it being anything more than a goal either way this game. Fulham are a solid Premier League team. They're not a team that gets hammered regularly. So yeah, we'll see what goes on there. Roy, what about you? Do you fancy us to win
On Sunday?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I fancy us to win too.
And Sam, lastly, we'll give you a prediction. I know you was sitting on the fence a bit before, but lastly, what's your final prediction for Sunday's game?
It's head versus heart. Like, I can't really predict us to lose. So, and it all depends if we have a fit left back starting or not, because that will be really bad for us defensively, because both of ours are out at the minute. But I'm just going to have to go for 1-0 to us.
Is that Robinson that's out?
Yeah, Robinson and Sessegnon, he just plays everywhere, to be honest. So we're starting Calvin Bass. Well, we started Calvin Bassey as left back, but that defensively we're fine. It's just a lot of our attacking threat is gone.
Well, that's good news for us. Yeah, because
how long's Robinson out for?
Honestly, we haven't had much news on it. Like, he's always been carrying something and needed surgery for it, but I don't know how long for, to be honest.
I've got him in my fantasy team. That's all I'm asking for.
I'd take him out to be safe.
Okay. We're coming up to the end then, and time to close it up, so we'll leave it there. Please like and subscribe. It started off as a chat about MUFC. If you support us, we can improve. You can also email creamofmanchester@gmail.com or find us on all the socials. Thanks a lot to our regulars, Roy and Remo, and our special guest, Fulham guest, Sam Yard. Really appreciate you giving up your time there, especially with our time coming in there. Next up, we'll be back for the Burnley home game, where we hope United will be bouncing back at Old Trafford after last week's loss. So bye for now.